A lot of people ask how to protect their private keys, where should you get started, what exchanges they should use, those kind of things. And that really is it's a case by case basis. I'm cautious to recommend exchanges because I would feel more comfortable if I had personally done a security analysis. I know what their reputation is. You'd be probably not have much better information than I do is with regard to what the reputations. We all know what the largest exchanges are. Certainly something to do your research on. This is a little bit the Wild West. It's certainly not the level of security that you would have putting it at a bank or a brokerage firm. Bitcoin and digital asset exchanges just aren't regulated like that. A lot of them are outside the United States. It'd be very difficult to have legal action. It's a crazy space. There's hacks. Companies will spread losses amongst individuals and who are customers and so on. So it's something you want to spend some time and research on. Generally the larger, more stable, secure companies with good backing, good investors. That makes sense. Looking at their security model, and that's for your purchases. Now, a lot of the people will say, "Not your keys, not your coins. Don't trust anybody to custody your keys." I have a little bit different way of looking at things like that because I see things through a different lens. That lens is mainly as an investment advisor. So my job has been handling money, advising people about their money for a long, long time. And in that, I've learned kind of how money really works, how things work in the world, how money moves around. And I think that, unfortunately, the sort of idea of everybody holding their own keys is not as workable as a lot of people might think. One reason for that is because just simply the risk of theft. Okay, I've dealt with a lot of high net worth people. I've had billionaires as clients, lots and lots of people who are decamillionaires as customers. And I have a lot of friends now, a lot of crypto friends that have tens of millions or even hundreds of millions, or a few people who have a billion in crypto. And once you get past kind of 10 million, it becomes a whole new level of risk. You're sort of institutional grade risk. Institutional grade risk means somebody's motivated enough to steal from you as they would be from a bank or a post office or some other place that may have a lot of money. So you're going to need sort of institutional grade security. The bank down the street, I was just there the other day, and it, really thick doors and a lot. I was just kind of observing all of the different security features, a lot of which we're trying to duplicate for our own office, but it's complex and expensive, and then if somebody can get into the bank, they're hesitant to rob a bank because the penalties are very stiff. The likelihood of getting caught is high, and the likelihood of getting away with it is very low. Crypto isn't like that. There's a lot of people that get away with these hacks. So I differ from people where I don't necessarily say that you should protect your own private keys. It really comes down to a risk level. And the people who say, not your keys, not your coins, it's the only option, they're ignoring a big piece of risk. There is a risk that you could lose your keys. There is a risk you could lose your passphrase. There's a risk you could have a head injury or trauma or a 9/11 scale event that you're somehow involved in where your life and the entire financial system is temporarily unhinged. There's any number of circumstances that could make it so that you're too stressed or incapacitated or unable to get your keys. Now, there are ways that you can protect that with multi-sig and things like that, but layers of complexity also add other risks. And this industry is all about risk. So measuring risk and where you are and what your realistic risks are is a real key. Now, I know people, again, through my lens as an investment advisor, two examples, other investment advisors or firms, even small firms. When I was, late 20s, we managed significant amounts of money as a little, your kind of little shingle hanger kind of investment advisor, local firm. Every town has a dozen of them. And typically they have a lot of money. There's several in our town that have over $1 billion. But even a very tiny money manager who only has 20 million under management would be absolutely insane to have any chance there's any kind of risk for that. In my whole career, even dealing with these billionaires, I never ever worried about personal risk. Never worried about somebody pulling a gun on my client or me to try and get money, because there's no real money to have. I had a client who, super high profile, billionaire. Everybody knows he's a billionaire. There isn't really any way to mug him. All his stuff is in stocks at brokerage firms or in limited partnerships. It would take weeks to move it. One of the benefits of Bitcoin is that it does move so fast, which is why it's so appealing to thieves. But getting into the crypto space was the first time I worried about physical security. So there is a risk trade-off. Now, some of my clients, the other example I'll give, so investment advisors is one group that just isn't going to custody it themselves. And they control, kind of tons of the money in the world in some way or another. But individuals as well. Most individuals are not like crypto people. Crypto people are even scared of the risks of losing keys and technical risks and things like that. But if you go into the regular world, most people don't even have two-factor. Most people, I don't even know if they know what two-factor is. But if you take your average kind of Gmail user, your average WordPress user, your average kind of mainstream tech product user, or your average Fidelity customer or Charles Schwab customer, there's no way. There's just no way that it's going to be workable that these people are going to keep track of a 12-word phrase or something they have to keep in a safe or a treasure. It's just not going to work. I've dealt with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of clients, and people lose their passwords all the time. People forget things. Life is complex. People go off on sabbaticals. They go and travel to Europe and fall in love and stay there longer than they plan. And before you know it, time goes by, and the system that's good now might not be good in a while, particularly in times of tragedy and risk and these kind of things. So I think it makes more sense to have those. You have to analyze the risk. For each person, it's different. For my mom, I think that her risk of losing the keys is almost 100%, whereas her risk of being at, say, a Coinbase, yeah, sure, it's not her keys anymore. And there is a risk that it could be hacked and that could hurt her. But I think the risk in her case is much higher. You have to judge your own individual risk in each circumstance. In an ideal case, we'll have better and better tools, and they're working on it now, which will make it easier and easier and easier and more secure to custody it yourself. And you'll have redundant backups and systems like that you can trust. Because the other drawback of having it yourself is if you have total control, there could be something that causes that system to get messed up. So you need a backup. Probably multiple locations in case there's a natural disaster that wrecks your safe, a flood, or something like that. So it's complex. There's risks either way, and it's naive to think there isn't risks either way. It's naive to go into an exchange and say, oh, there's no risk, the exchange can never get hacked. It's also very naive to have total control of your own keys and think that nothing can ever be hacked. The only ones I know who are really, really confident about that are sort of, top tier technical people. And they're at a different standard than others. And even with that, there's sometimes risk of things getting overly complex. So if that person dies, maybe nobody else knows how to get through their complex technical situation. So it does make sense to be aware of both kinds of risk and think about that in protecting your private keys.